Hello, my name is Cecil Malcolm. I teach integrated STEM to ninth graders in an Adventist private school in Hagerstown called Highland View Academy. I have one EL student and two students with 504/IEP accommodations out of the 21 students that I was teaching um, iSTEM and this module to. The title of the lesson was Microbit Password Generator. This built on the previous lesson of password testing and what are microbits. As a solution to creating new passwords for each login, in an offline manner, we decided to code the microbits to generate passwords. Students use their skills of block coding the microbits, which they learned in the lesson. What are microbits? To generate passwords that fit the criteria laid out in the password testing lesson. I chose to fulfill the required standard of basic block coding skill with the integration of cybersecurity as it relates to the CIA triad via offline password generation. As it relates to student engagement, I had 100% engagement due to the class being an elective class that is meant for students interested in STEM. Highly motivated students. The requirement of all students to be able to block code, the relevance of this lesson to them, and the variety of ways the students could take to land on the same outcome. For example, the majority of students used prescribed method outlined in the lesson, while others created their own way of coding to create a similar result. Of the 9-student group, a minority, 5 students, were able to surpass the requirements of numbers and letters and added symbols to their generation. To assess whether or not my students met their learning outcomes, I used several means. I used formative assessments like cold calling students to explain various aspects of the lesson. For example, how do you do a loop in the coding? I also collected data while I was traveling around the room observing their progress. The formal assessment was done with a rubric assessing their formal product and its effectiveness. Students were required to do a self-test by putting samples of their generated password in their online password tester from the previous lesson to see how effective their generator was. As a result, students ensured that they met all the requirements on the rubric and maximized the effectiveness of the generator, resulting in 90% or higher for all students. Students were very proud of their final product. Along the way, they took creative liberty to turn the microbits into musical instruments, which they used to play basic songs like Mary Had a Little Lamb. Overall, it was deemed one of their better projects because of the demand for total involvement and creative freedom. As for me, the planning of the lesson was fairly straightforward because I had already prepared over the summer. Implementing the lesson for the first time was very rewarding since my students thought on their feet, worked together as a team rather than competitors, and they all showed mastery over the learning outcome in their own way. I particularly enjoyed the growth of the non-coders to coding literate, primarily because over the summer camp I had the same experience of going from a non-coder to coding literate, which empowered me to share my knowledge with others, and seeing that play out in my classroom gave me fulfillment on a deeper level. For future classes, I will spend more time explaining how the password generator is influenced by the CIA triad, which will set them up for future cybersecurity lessons. This year, I was able to have a Towson University comp science student engage with my students virtually, and I would like to continue that and hopefully plan a field trip to Towson University in the future. I also plan to purchase my own set of microbits and its attachments. I also intend to keep growing my relationship with Towson University so that my students can take advantage of what it has to offer in the field of cybersecurity. I need to invest in more Chromebooks for my students and will therefore need to acquire the funding and donation. Thank you very much, and that's my reflection.